Hello, everyone. My name's Avataco, and I decided to make a card game to modify the way that people play Phasmophobia. So, this game is going to be designed for people who have played a lot of Phasmo. They enjoy playing it with their friends, and they wish they could spice up the game a little bit and maybe experience some things or be forced to step out of their comfort zone in how they play the game, or just create some silly moments just because of the restrictions on certain roles that these cards have. So essentially, what the game is you'll each player will be drawing one card from the deck, and that card will essentially give them a description of how they have to play. It'll have a little bit of a theme behind the card, and they'll have a different goal. So some of the goals are pretty straightforward, like just identifying the ghost, but we have some different things in there that could prove to be interesting, and some limitations that are quite challenging or entertaining. So it's hopefully going to be good. I'll be looking for feedback on it, and I'll go into details as to what the cards kind of look like and how the game plays out. So for the four different types of cards, they're basically color coded. So we have white cards, purple cards, black cards, and brown cards. The white cards are focus cards, so they'll be kind of a limitation that makes you obsessed with a specific tool or a specific task or specific gameplay mode, and the goal should kind of align with it. The purple cards are supposed to be unique cards, so they're supposed to be like a very special goals mostly that are not always related to identifying the ghost. The black cards are called ghost lovers, and the lover cards are essentially helping the ghost because of their behavior. Um, so like things like blocking off other players because of their habits, or tanking the sanity of the group, or forcing the group to delay. So they're essentially helping the ghost. And then the brown cards are called hindrance cards, and these are essentially, I guess you'd call them debuff cards. So things like you have to crouch at all times, or something that will prevent you from doing what you want. Another example is I have a hermit card, where once you enter the building, you're not allowed to leave until the ghost is identified. So those are the four different types of cards, and I'll kind of go into details on what each of these examples are that you see before you, and I can go through some of the cards in the game after showing you how it plays out. So our examples of each cards for now, I just threw a few out of the deck out of the blue here. So the board game enthusiast is our first white card. So the example of the white card is you are obsessed with the Ouija board and you must constantly ask it questions. Just to make this card not just a complete hindrance to the group, even though it will absolutely get people killed, is their goal is to be successful with no deaths in the group, but your own is permitted. So you're going to be playing with the Ouija board as much as you can, but when a hunt happens, you might want to have some smudge sticks available to try and make amends for you tanking your sanity and save people's lives. If there is no Ouija board, you avoid staying in lit areas. So like if a room has a light on, you kind of need to hover towards the dark room or turn off the lights and stay in that room. So yeah, essentially this card will be tanking the sanity of yourself if there's no Ouija board. And then their goal stays the same. So every card will have kind of a description, and the underlying parts are the ones that you have to actually play out. Of course, all these cards are in progress, so if there's any cards that are weird or anything, you'll be able to reach out to me and tell me like, hey, I can't play this card, and maybe I'll make some adjustments to it later. So the example of our purple card is we have the meme lord, and the flavor text is that old memes are a sin, and so is old information. And they want to be the first one to identify which ghost is being dealt with, even if it means concealing one of the evidence types. So you can see how the meme lord has a bit of a hidden objective because they need to be the first one to reveal what type of ghost is being dealt with. Otherwise they quote unquote lose. I wanted to make a point to say that this game is not Among Us or something like that. It's not meant to be hyper competitive. It's just kind of a way to put a spin on the game. So if you do end up, not being the first one to reveal what type of ghost you're dealing with, you still get paid for the investigation. So yeah, you lost the card game, but you're still getting to enjoy the game because you're playing Phas and you're doing investigations. So it's not about who wins, who loses. You're not out to hamper other players. You're just supposed to play out your card and enjoy yourself, play Phasmo. I just wanted to get that out there while explaining the meme lord card here. As we go on to the next type of card, because our example of the ghost lover, Trapper. So The ghost lovers are trying to help the ghost out, but you're still trying to succeed. So the example here is you just love helping the ghost keep investigators contained. Your curiosity for ghosts still wishes for you to identify them. So your goal is to keep all doors and closets shut when able, and you win if at least one person died at the end, but the ghost is also identified, and you're not allowed to use the Ouija board to tank your sanity to try and get more hunts. So you're not actively out to kill people. Your goal is just to keep shutting doors. So this is probably the most aggressive ghost lover card I've added so far, and I'm curious to see how it plays out. If it gets to be too annoying, I'm gonna definitely make some changes, but I'll show you some more ghost lover cards later. And the example of our hindrance card here is you're short. So you, the flavor text is, "Can you pass me a thermometer? You thought the grocery store was bad. Who builds shelves this tall?" So you must remain crouched at all times. That's what happens if you have this hindrance card. And yeah, so you kind of get an idea of how the different card types play out. So essentially, when you're playing this game on the current website that I'm using, you will be clicking this deal button, which will deal a card to each person in their seats. The person can read the card without it being revealed to the group. If they lift it too high, it's concealed. So here I drew the Canadian, which is a focus card. And your focus is that you're courteous in nature, so you must close doors for people after they enter a room and apologize if they reopen it immediately. And your goal is to succeed the investigation and be alive to apologize at the end. So you can see how this focus card kind of changes the way you have to play, and has some kind of tidbits that let people know which card you're playing, and that takes into effect later because there are some cards in the game where you need to identify other cards in your group. So you need to be able to guess which cards the other players have. That's the private investigator role. And the reason I put this card here first is because anytime there's like a certain card, there's always another card that's somewhat like it. So the trapper is going around closing doors as much as possible. The Canadian is also running around closing doors. So if you have an investigator, they might be like, "Hey, is it a trapper or a Canadian?" And there's some ways of identifying that. But without jumping around too much, so everyone has their card dealt. They all read their cards. You start up your lobby. When you get through the investigation, you identified the ghost. Before you leave, you ask if there's any investigation rolls, and if not, then you can reveal everyone's cards by clicking on the reveal button, and it'll essentially drag the cards from the hands to each player's position on the board, and then you'll get to see what everyone's cards are. And then once you're done, you can decide whether or not you shuffle everything back into the deck, or just keep all these cards as discarded. So if you don't want any duplicates, you don't ever shuffle. If you want it to be random every single time, and it can be the Canadian 4 times in a row, there's 30 something cards, so it shouldn't happen. But you can shuffle them back in if you think that's how you want to play. So just for fun, I'll go through a few of the other cards just so you can see. So in this case, we have the Bird Brain, which is another Ghost Lover card, and they're so easily distracted that they must ask other players for their equipment to be able to use them. And then immediately after grabbing the equipment from them, they can use it for 2 seconds before they have to drop the equipment back in the ghost room. And their goal is to receive equipment 3 times from another player and identify the ghost. So you'll have somebody who's constantly asking you, like, "Hey, can I use that thermometer?" And then they'll just kind of go and toss it in the ghost room, and you're kind of like, "Hey, why, why are you doing this?" So there's gonna be a lot of little things like this. Here's another ghost card called the Concealer, and it says, "No one else must know. Anytime the ghost moves an object, you must return it to the original location, and your goal is to get 2 interaction photos and survive the investigation." So you're gonna be looking out for the ghost moving objects. You want to get pictures of them, and you want to put them back. But you also want to survive the investigation, so it might be worth, helping with the investigation also. So you're kind of concealing the ghost's efforts, and at the same time, participating in the game still. Here's another focus card. So you got slammed hard for utility bills one time, and ever since then you're obsessed with saving energy. So you must turn off the lights anytime no one is in a room that is lit. So if somebody turns on the lights and they leave the room, nope, that's going to cost the power bill. So you go back in and you turn it back off. So I have a whole bunch of cards in here, like the biggest fan, the archaeologist, the CEO. The CEO is interesting because they have to identify the ghost, but they must also identify which people in the group have ghost lover cards. So if player 1 has a ghost lover card, they're the trapper, the CEO has to say, I think player 1 is a ghost lover. I think player 1 and 2 are ghost lovers. Or I don't think there are any ghost lovers in the group. And if you correctly identify that during before the reveal phase, then you won with the CEO. So yeah, I have a lot of different things. Like the shy guy has to look away from people at all times. So if another player enters your screen, you need to look away from them. I've got the hermit who has to stay in the house at all times. I've got the fact checker who needs to get evidence from the Ouija board. There's a caveman who can only speak in 1 to 2 phrase sentences. I have the hallway monitor that can only stay in hallways. The relative who must include the ghost name every time they speak, and they're not even allowed to leave the ghost room unless they're hunted. So that one's a little bit terrifying. There's a completionist who has to finish all the whiteboard tasks. Anyways, as you can see, I have a lot of cards, to pick from so far. So another thing I wanted to show you was the Excel document that I've created for this. This is available publicly for people to look at. It's essentially supposed to be there as kind of a reference. So if you end up being the private investigator in your first game, you kind of have a list of all the cards that are currently implemented in the game with a description and their win conditions. So if you see someone closing the doors that are left open, you might say it's the trapper and things like that. It kind of tells you what they do. So if you wanted to look at all the cards that are currently in, I also have a section for cards in development, which is kind of empty right now. It did have a couple of them in there before, but I've already created the cards and put them in the game. Also worth noting is all the rules are at the top. Basically, you don't want to hold the lobby hostage. That's not the goal of the game. So if you can't complete your objective because you need people to go back into the building or stuff like that, but you've already identified the ghost and everyone's done, don't hold the lobby hostage. And also do not discuss or call out people's cards mid-run. So you can kind of joke about it, like, hey, I guess you can't come outside, and stuff like that. But you can't say, like, hey, so-and-so is the hermit, because you're ruining the game for the investigation roles. So yeah, essentially don't call people's cards out mid-run. Don't say what they are. You can kind of joke about it, but just try and keep that out of it. Obviously, I can't make these rules set in stone within Phasmophobia because I am not a developer of the game. So this is just a little external thing. And now that you've seen the game, I'm assuming most of you are wondering, well, how do I get my hands on it? That is still in progress for the majority of people. If you're a content creator and you want your own lobby for now, you can reach out to me and I can try to do my best to get you a lobby for the card game. The issue being right now is the implementation is on a website. It is the Playing Cards IO website. The issue with this particular website is everyone is an admin on the lobby that you are in, which means anyone can rename the players, anyone can play with the buttons, anyone can draw the cards. So you're going to have to do your best effort to keep your link hidden from your streams. There's two spots where the link appears, which is the top of your web browser, and when you first join the lobby, there's a pop-up that comes up that shows the link in it. So you're going to want to avoid sharing that with anyone. So you need to play with people that you trust. I definitely wouldn't recommend pulling random people in and playing. That pretty much outlines the whole thing. So I'll essentially have to create a lobby for you, send you the link, and then you can do with it as you will. The one thing I wanted to point out though is 100% do not leak the lobby link. Do not link don't leak the browser link. Don't give it to people you don't trust, because people can go in and edit the people's names, other player names. So like you don't want any racist things or homophobic things or anything like that showing up in your lobbies. And people can even edit the cards. So you don't want people going in and editing a picture and putting that up on your stream either. So be extra vigilant with that. And that pretty much wraps it up. So if you want to reach out to me, I'm Avataco on Twitch. I'm Avataco on Twitter. Feel free to DM me if you can. I don't know if my Twitter will allow it, but if you need to reach out on Twitch, go for it. And we'll see where this goes. I do plan on making a program eventually to host this game, and I'm still adding cards every day. So if you do receive a lobby, it will have to be manually updated by me when I add new cards. So it's going to be tough if I have to juggle too many people. So I'll obviously have to be careful with how many people I give this game out to for now. And yeah, I look forward to doing more for this. And that's pretty much it. Have a good day.